All right, welcome everybody. I am recording this meeting and we'll be posting the recording on the Nonpublic textbook webpage. This is for the Nonpublic textbook program. This first session is to give all of you some insights into what you can use the funds for, what the program is, what you can use the funds for, and how to place your orders. So I'm going to share my screen and get started. So actually, before I do, let me introduce myself. I'm Nicole Obregon. I work in the Office of Grants Administration and Compliance at MSDE, and I'm serving as interim Special Fiscal Programs Administrator, overseeing a couple of programs, including the Nonpublic Textbook Program. I have some other colleagues on the line with me. Frank Conaway and Edna Williams-Wicker are on the line from MSDE. They are from our procurement office. And I don't think anyone else is here yet from MSDE, but you have 3 representatives here right now.
Nicole, I'm on the line.
Oh, Sandra, you're here. Okay. Sandra Grant is a new hire at MSDE. She is going to be the primary contact for this program, and I'll share her information during this presentation as well. So welcome, Sandra, aboard. So before we jump into meat and potatoes of how to order and what to order, I just want to acclimate you to the web page. I'm going to put the link here in the chat as well. This is the Nonpublic Textbook Program webpage, and this is your first stop for information. Everything that you would need to know about the program is here. The ordering period is at the top. This program is a gateway to other programs, including the Boost program and the Nonpublic Aging Schools program. The links are there as well. The link to the application and ordering portal is right there. Just go back. There's also a grant information guide. It's a PDF document that has all of the most important information you'll need to know. The grant period, the number of schools we anticipate participating. Now we know how many, 414. Information about eligibility. If you want to know what the review process is like, you can click here. And there's also a timeline here at the end of this document as well. So you can click through that and take a look as well. On the left-hand side, there's frequently asked questions. The last time this was updated, I think, was in December. So when we finish this meeting today, we'll add any questions you have. We'll add to this document and post the answers as well. So these are questions that I frequently get from schools and from vendors. This is a list of all the applications we received. The complete list of approved programs has not been posted yet, but these are all that applied. And some schools have asked for a list of vendors just to start gathering your orders. And so I've posted that as well. Participating vendors are right here, the last link on that left-hand side. If there are any vendors who want to be added, here's some information they'll need to provide to us to be added. There's over 360 or 70 vendors that participate in this program. And if you keep on scrolling down, there's more information. The sessions that we held in November about the application are here. Here's today's session right here, and there's the link. The recording is going to be posted right under there in a few days after we get the closed captioning on there. If you have any vendors that reach out to you want information, there's also a section here for vendors, and I've already met with them. There were 2 sessions that took place in January for them. But if you want to listen to what the information that they heard, you can click and listen to those recordings as well. Yeah, so that's sort of a preview of our webpage. Again, that should be your first stop for information. And then any other questions, you can ask me or Sandra. Well, let's go through the information now. So today's customer service session is all about the ordering process. The application period is over. All the schools who are approved know that you're approved. The ordering portal opened just a couple of days ago. So this presentation will lead you through the ordering process. Today, I'll provide a brief overview of the non-public textbook program. We'll talk about use of funds, what you can use funds for, what you can't use funds for, how to place an order. I'll show you an overview of the timeline over the next year and a half, and then we'll save time at the end for questions. Please, could you please hold your questions until the very end? I'll save some time, but I'd rather get through this information first, and then we'll open up questioning at the end of the presentation. So here's an overview of the non-public textbook program. It is an annual program, so schools have to apply every year. It is authorized out of the governor's budget bill. So here's the budget bill for fiscal year 2023, which is what we're in right now. If you want to read the bill, I think legislation is very interesting. I think it's a good read. If you're interested in it, you can click on the hyperlink. This will be on our webpage. And the non-public, it's a long bill. It's over 400 pages. The non-public textbook program starts on page 162. And then this is what it says. This is where we get all of our guidance from, is from the legislation. So you can scroll down if you'd like to and take a look. Essentially, non-public schools apply to participate, which you all have done. Approved schools then receive a funding allocation. Schools then submit quotes from vendors for allowable items. And then MSDE pays the bill, and schools coordinate delivery with the vendors. That's an overview of what the program is all about. So what can you use the funds for? Funds can be used for essentially textbooks and technology, secular textbooks, that's non-religious. Textbooks, you can use funds for manipulatives, for individual student use that accompany a curriculum. Funds can be used to request technology hardware for individual student use, or technology software for individual student use. The key words here, and this comes from legislation, is that items have to be for individual student use, not for whole class use, not for group use, not for the teacher's use, the parents' use, individual student use. So some examples of items that would be easily approved are textbooks, workbooks, leveled readers, if you don't need textbooks for your classroom, classroom library books, sets of books of multiple copies of books to build up your classroom library. On the technology side, tablets and laptops. Again, these are items that students use at their desks or individually. Headphone sets, microphones, puzzles, manipulatives that would accompany a curriculum. For example, math block sets. If each student needs a set of counters to do their math curriculum, that would be approved. And student licenses to learning websites. So there are several approved vendors that offer these services to learning websites. So student licenses would be approved. If the quote that you gathered also has teacher licenses on there, that would not be approved. We can't pay for items for teacher use. However, if the vendor, offers a package, whereas if you purchase 500 student licenses or 100 student licenses, then you get, 10 teacher licenses for free, then that's something that we could approve. So what are some things that would not be eligible for funding? Funds cannot be used to purchase food, tuition or scholarships, construction or capital improvements, salaries, utilities or operating costs like internet bills, or services like that. Any materials that contain religious content would not be approved. And essentially any items that you can't loan to a student for individual use. So some examples of items that have been requested in the past and maybe were approved in the past, but will not be approved moving forward. Items such as interactive whiteboards. Those are those big touchscreen tablets that classrooms have up on the wall, televisions, playground equipment, software for teacher or parent use, things like furniture or rugs, laminating machines, printers, tables, which would fall under furniture, play kitchens, for example. These are all items that really aren't loaned to individual students, therefore the whole group use. So these are just some examples of items that would not be approved. So here's a breakdown of the steps on the ordering process. The very first step, and there's already been 10 schools that have started ordering, so some of you may already be familiar with this. The first step is to log into the application ordering portal and set your password. You'll have to create that password when you log in. The email that you use to log in is the same email that you designated as your point of contact email. And if you don't remember what that is, or you tried an email address and it's not working, email the Nonpublic textbook program and we'll let you know what email address you used. Next, you'll review your funding allocation letter. All of you should have received one by now that tells you how much money you're approved to spend down. And also take a look at the list of registered vendors that we have on our webpage. Next, you'll gather quotes from vendors, spending down your allocation. And then you'll upload the quote to the ordering portal and create a new order. And I'll show you what the ordering portal looks like in just a minute. Something very important when gathering quotes is that the items that you have, that you gather that are on that quote that you submit to us, the items have to be approved for the use of funds. We've already received a couple, about 10 or 12 quotes or so, and I'd say about 7 or 8 of them contained items that were on that not approved list. So we are taking a look at what the funds are paying for. The quotes must not include taxes because MSTE is a tax exempt institution. So taxes should not be a part of the quote that you submit. And if there's any shipping or freight costs on that quote that you upload, they should be a part of the order that you submit. However, there may be times where the vendor offers free shipping in the US or free shipping if you spend over $100 or something like that. And then we do note that, we do pay attention to that on the quote. So if the quotes you submit meet all of this criteria, then it will be very easy for us at MSDE to review and approve them. Quotes that don't meet this criteria will cause delays in processing. We have to reject that quote and send it back to the school and say, please make sure that taxes are not included, or please take a look at the approved list of allowable expenses. You asked for printers, and printers are not an allowable use of funds. So keep these things in mind when you're submitting a quote from a vendor. Next, you'll pay attention to your email inbox as MSDE reviews your orders, and we either approve the order that you inputted, or we request additional information, or we ask that you read. For approved quotes, the next step is that a purchase order, a PO, and a PO number are generated. This happens at the MSD level, so this isn't anything for schools to do. But once a quote is approved, our procurement office then generates a PO that essentially gives the vendor permission to begin processing that order and then shipping it to the school. Next, you'll look out for communication from the vendor to coordinate delivery. And if you're ordering, a few books, it might just be delivered to your mailbox or set on the school's porch. If you're ordering, 100 laptops, then you should expect any communication from the vendor to make sure that your school is open on the day they want to deliver, to ask, maybe they need to know if you have a loading dock at your school to drop the pallet off. So depends on the size of the order, but you should expect, you may expect some communication from the vendor to coordinate delivery. Once items have been delivered, it is your responsibility to log back into your ordering portal and mark that you have received those items. That tells us that we can pay the bill and that you've received everything that was on your order, and we can close that case up with a bow. So here's what the ordering portal looks like. When you log in, this is what your screen looks like. This is all for fiscal year 2023. The name of your school will be at the top, and it looks like this. It says fund request at the top, and there's 3 steps: 1, 2, and 3. 1 is order, 2 is request to MSDE, 3 is ordered to the vendor. So to start, let's say you already know what items you want, you've talked to the vendor, you have a quote, and you're ready to place your first order. Then you'll click on Create New Order, and the screen will look like this. Your allocation is at the top of the screen. This is just a sample. This school can spend down $14,000. So your allocation is at the top in blue ink, and the allocation number in brown ink is what your total is after you've entered your order. So it will spend down the funding that you're approved for. So you have your quote. Let's say, for example, the vendor is Best Buy. You begin typing in the vendor name, and then the vendor will pop up. You'll click on their name, and their address and contact will populate. And then you'll take a look at your quote, and every item that's on that quote, you'll have to enter here, indicate whether it's a book or technology, put in the serial number, or if it's a book, ISBN number or item number. You'll enter in a description of what that item is, how many of that item you want, and then the unit price for one. I think the maximum number of lines on this form is 50 or 150. Maybe someone can unmute and correct me, but there's a lot of space to enter a lot of items. So you'll enter in all the items in that quote, and then you'll click this Choose File, and that's where you upload the PDF of the quote that you got from the vendor. If there are any shipping charges, you have to enter those here in the top corner. If you don't enter them, then we won't pay for shipping. So it's important that you make sure that if there are any shipping costs, that they're there. And then lastly, if you want to save it and you want to come back to it later, you can just click Save. And when you're ready to submit, then you just click Submit. At this point, MSDE, me or Sandra, receives a notification that a school has submitted an order, and we have to review it. We review it for the items that I talked about earlier, whether the items that are listed in the request are an allowable use of funds, whether taxes are not included, and whether shipping costs are there. If everything is approved, then we'll just approve the invoice. But on your side, it looks like this. The request, that order goes to step 2, where it's being reviewed by MSDE. And then this is the total number of items that you asked for, and your total dollar amount here, and then the date you requested it. And if the order is approved, then it is sent to our procurement office. They generate a purchase order, and then they send it right to the vendor. And so step 3, if you log in and you see step 3, order to vendor, order complete, that tells you that the order was sent to the vendor, and it has the vendor name there as well. So I'd like you to see what the email looks like that vendors receive. This is just a sample email. The sample vendor is Best Buy. So when our procurement office alerts Best Buy there's an order, this is what the email looks like. Dear Best Buy, please process the attached State of Maryland purchase order. Click this link to view the order, and then there's some directions at the bottom for them on what they should do to get that invoice paid for. This is the document that vendors receive. This is what the purchase order from MSDE looks like. In the top left-hand corner, there's the vendor information. In the center, there's the ship to school. That's your information. The information that you put into the application is populated here. Your school name, your address, that's the address that the vendor will deliver the items to. your point of contact, POC is point of contact, the name and email and phone number there as well. In the top right-hand corner, that's where we put the PO number that is associated with that quote. So for this year, all the POs will begin the same way, R00P360, and then there'll be 4 digits at the end. And then all the items that you put on your order will be in the center, and shipping as well, and then who approved it. It's very important that the quote that you submit and the order that you create, when you click submit, we can't change it. Once this purchase order is generated and sent to the vendor, we can't change the total, we can't change the items. So it's very important that you take your time and make sure that everything you want on that order is there. So next, this part really I don't think is very important to you all because you're not paying the bills. But if a vendor calls and asks you about how to get their bill paid, the invoice paid, this is the next steps that happen after they receive the PO and they deliver your items. MSDE pays the invoice for items that are delivered. Vendors must send their invoice electronically to that email address on the screen, invoice.msde@maryland.gov. So we tell vendors that, our procurement office tells vendors that, it's on their PO. But if you receive any questions from vendors about where to send invoices, this is where you should direct them. The invoice that the vendors send us has to match the purchase order that we sent them. We are urging vendors to sign up for electronic payment so that everything's digital now. We're urging them to sign up for electronic payment so they receive their payment more quickly. So there's a link here at the bottom, and vendors have this link as well. So here's a general timeline of events over the next year. So February 1st, that was a couple days ago, the ordering portal opened. Customer service sessions are held for schools in the ordering process on February 16th and March 7th. But I added one today, so it's actually 3 sessions total. The ordering portal closes March 31st. That's not a typo. I think in previous years it was open until May, which gave MSDE very little time to create purchase orders, reconcile accounts, and liquidate funds. So March 31st is the deadline for new orders. Between April, May, and June, MSDE will finalize creating purchase orders and reconciling accounts. And then since our fiscal year ends June 30th, we have 45 days to liquidate any POs or finalize orders. That is if the school requested any items that the vendor then later told you that were on back order or weren't available, you do have that period to make any last minute changes. On an ongoing period, vendors are delivering items to you and sending the invoices to us. And then also on an ongoing basis, schools are marking that the items were delivered through your portal. So here is my contact information as well as Sandra's and the email address that we're using to communicate all questions about the non-public textbook program. So at this point, I will open it up for questions. And you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, I have one. Casey Taylor, Asbury Child Development Center in Salisbury, Maryland.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you for doing this session. I really appreciate it. It's very helpful information. What happens if we get our quote and then we place the order and we find out that order is no longer available? What do we need to do on our end?
You mean the items you asked for are no longer available?
Correct. If they're discontinued, are we allowed to call the vendor and supplement it, or ask them if they have a substitution? How does that work?
So your first step would be to email us and let us know, so that we can alert our procurement office, and we may have to generate a purchase order with an A or a B, so that order can be changed. All of that will take place during the liquidation period, but you would check to make sure that the vendor, that the items in fact are not available. Find replacement items that are of similar type and of similar price. They can't exceed the total of the purchase order that you submitted.
Right.
So there are we do allow for substitutions if items aren't available. We just reach out to us, and then we start that process, and that's what it looks like.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, in the past, I am a non-public preschool, so I have the younger students. So for instance, age 2, what, we have always bought the kitchen sets and so on for those classrooms, because they are utilized by those students at that young of an age, instead of the other items you are listing. So you're saying now that's no longer available?
It's considered furniture, and it can't be loaned to a student. It's for the whole class to use, like as a center. So those big pieces of furniture would no longer be allowable.
So what are we supposed to do for, I mean, I know the smaller manipulatives and stuff, but I mean, ours is very center-based things that are used in the classroom. And so why has that changed since this
Because
year?
we're trying to follow more closely to what legislation says. And legislation is very clear that the items that are approved should be textbooks or technology. We've expanded that now to include individual items for individual use that could accompany curriculum or textbooks. So we've expanded that. But the legislation is clear that the items should be for individual student use. So we're following more closely to what legislation says.
Okay, well, that's a shame. Just,
I understand.
that's a shame for that age group, especially, you know. So, okay.
Hi. Good afternoon. I'm Maxine from Tacoma Park Child Development Center, the assistant director. I just have two, part A and part B. So when you say vendor, I didn't hear that you mentioned like Best Buy, but can a vendor be Amazon to order books using Amazon or no?
I will let procurement chime in because there is a caveat to using Amazon, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Edna or Frank, can you unmute and chime in?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Amazon accepts credit cards. Amazon don't accept purchase orders. So we can't place orders with Amazon.
Okay, thank you. So we're ordering a large amount of books, and where else would you guys suggest to put this money towards, the funds towards? Because granted, we get approved, but where else would you guys suggest to get a vast amount of like books in bulk, different genres as far as when it's multicultural, because we do a lot of different units of study. So where else would you advise us? So lastly, thank you so much, Jacqueline. Jocelyn, appreciate that. So any other suggestion where we can use this money for? And also, you said for individual child. So let's say a child needs, I don't know, when it comes to like a tablet, if it's for the one child, you ordering just for the one child, not the whole center? Is that it?
If you have, 15 students in your class, then you can order 15 tablets.
Okay.
Regarding what vendors you should use, we can't recommend or steer you in any way. There are some people are typing in comments in the chat box, but the list of vendors is posted on our website. So it's up to you. Just look through and kind of shop, take a look at the vendors' websites and kind of see what they have to offer, and then submit your order that way. And you're welcome to, lean on other schools that are on the call or nearby and get suggestions from other schools, but we can't really steer you in one direction or the other. But they're all publicized there.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Maxine. Okay, some people have their hands raised. Jacqueline, Deborah, and 2 others. Hi, Jacqueline. Oh, good to see your face. We've been emailing a lot lately.
So I was able to get in. So that's a good
Yeah,
sign. The
great.
only issue is that I just wanted to confirm. You said that whiteboards is not approved use of funds, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Because that is different from last year.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. And Deborah?
So my question is, previously, and this may be covered because you said that the kitchen sets and things like that were considered a center. Would computers, desktop computers for the classrooms, those would also be considered centers?
I think that will be something that we might discuss as a review committee. But if it's an individual desktop computer,
Yes.
I would assume that would be for individual use because it's meant to just sit on the desktop, but that may be something that we discuss as a review committee. These decisions I don't make by myself. We discuss them as a team.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Jim and Dory, you both have your hands raised as well.
Yeah, hi, Nicole. Two quick questions. One, I assume TVs would fall under the same setting as whiteboards.
Right.
And so far as their classroom displays, so they're not individual lengths. Because I know in the past that's been a purchase of ours fairly consistently. And the second thing is multi-year subscriptions. Like several of these vendors will offer you a 3-year subscription, which is for individual student licensing, assuming they're in your school somewhere. Is there a special way you want those accounted for or documented in the quotes?
I'm glad you asked because we had a quote submitted yesterday for a 3-year license and we did meet it. We've already been meeting as a committee to determine, do we allow this or not? And we decided that as some schools get discounts if you order multi-year licenses. So we are approving those multi-year licenses, assuming that we pay for all of it this year and that there are no future invoices that come in.
That's kind of what I assumed, but I just wanted to check that that was okay to get a quote for and to submit.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Dory?
Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
I jumped on late. I'm so sorry. I missed a whole bunch of it, but I was wondering do we need to get quotes? Sorry. Do we need to get quotes for everything or just if it's like technology or like big? So if I order through Lakeshore, in the past, I just would go in and put my order, the numbers in and place my order. And then I got an email last year saying that we needed to have quotes submitted. And I'm like, I've never had to do that for Lakeshore or Becker's before. But I know like some of our other centers that have ordered technology stuff, either through Apple or whoever, got quotes. So I just want to make sure, because that's just a little bit more time consuming. So I just want to be able to plan if I need to get quotes for everything.
Yes, a quote is required. For any items that you want us to pay for, you have to submit a quote.
So even if I'm just ordering through Lakeshore, like through their catalog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and the quote for Lakeshore, Sandra and I have already seen a couple of these from Lakeshore. At least the ones we've seen, it's itemized. And each item is clickable. So we've seen a couple of those already just in the past day or two, but a quote is necessary for every item that you want us to pay for.
Okay, so we should really kind of get our list together, call Lakeshore, and then tell them what we're looking for, and then they'll send us a bunch, the quote.
Yes.
Got it.
That's probably how they would do it. Yeah. Other smaller companies may be able to just email or put together a quote online by shopping and adding items to a shopping cart and then printing out the PDF.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sharon, and then there's a Montessori school that has a question too.
I think I heard you say, but just to make sure, that we do have to confirm that we receive the items in the portal. Is that new? Is that something I should point out to my principals?
It is something that has been a loose requirement.
Okay.
It hasn't really been enforced, but it's something that we really need for our records to make sure that the items that we're paying for are delivered to the schools. It really just,
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I think it makes everybody's life easier if we all know where this stuff is. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if schools only receive partial orders, we want to know that too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kay O'Farrell asks, I want to confirm if we want to get Google Chromebooks for students, we need to use one of the 8 vendors listed under computers in the vendor pull-down menu. You can try searching. I think what you're asking is if you type in the vendors, if you type in the word computers, like 8 vendors come up. You can do it that way, or you can take a look at the list of vendors we've put on our website. For example, I mean, Best Buy, if you typed in computers, Best Buy might not show up, but they do sell computers. So I think that's what your question is. Frederick Montessori and Stephanie also have questions.
Hi, I'm Fazida from Frederick
Hi,
Montessori.
Fazida.
I couldn't figure out how to change the name.
That's okay.
Usually I can. So we are a Montessori school and we don't necessarily have textbooks for children. So these are just manipulatives, as you call it, to support the curriculum. And they're on the shelf for, it could be one item, but one individual child will use it at one time. So is that something that we can still do? Because otherwise then we can't order anything.
Yeah, things like musical instruments to accompany like a music curriculum, or like science, like beakers or science materials for, absolutely. And there are several vendors that that tailor it to Montessori schools, and they should be listed there as well. So
okay, so as long as we see the vendors, we can choose the materials from there.
Yes.
And then if we order now, do we get the materials like as soon as
no?
Look,
the early bird gets the worm. So we're just sitting around, we're waiting for orders to come in. We've already received like 10 or 12. So if you submit an order and it's approved and procurement develops a PO and it goes to the vendor and the vendor delivers, that's beautiful if it happens.
So it can happen. So it's not for the next school year. It's like for now. We can get them if they're ready.
The intention is for the next school year, but they can be delivered as soon as you're ready to receive them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stephanie and Azra.
Hi.
Hi.
How
there you are. Hi.
Yes.
Good.
I'm new to the textbook grants, or just grants period. I started midway or latter in the year, last year, school year. And I'd been keeping track of what we received from last year's textbook grant. And I'm wondering, with me being new and having an account now, do I have access to go into the system and post what we received from last year? Because we do still have like 1 or 2 items still on back order, but I just wanted to make sure now that I know that's what we need to do, I want to put it in for the past grant because I have that information.
That you can email me about that. At this point, we are still catching up from last year, and we are already kind of heading into the new year. So we're starting a fresh, clean slate. And if you have any issues with your orders from last year, you can send me an email. But I don't think that schools can easily, I don't think that you're able to go in and mark that you received items from a year ago. I don't think you're able to do that.
Okay.
So just moving forward.
Okay.
And Azra?
Hi there. I've been in the program for a few years, and we've in the past emailed Jamie Klarman about things that are broken or things like that we had to discard of. You know, changing the subject, what is the process for the audit? If we've had things that have broken down, what do we do? Do we need to tell you about it? You said clean slate. So I'm thinking, you know, things that we've gotten in the past, you guys really don't want to know about and you don't have time for. But what will be the process going forward? If you could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked, because I'll be adding this question to our frequently asked questions because it's come up and I need to put it there as well. So for any items that happen to that break while you have them in use this year, lean on the manufacturer's warranty and contact the vendor for those items. For any past items, we're asking that schools keep an inventory of the items that you've ordered, but we also have records based on the orders you submitted and the items that you marked you received. So we won't be sending out barcode stickers this year, but we're asking schools to keep inventory for audit purposes. But as far as I know, we haven't retrieved any items back.
No,
So
that
that's-
hasn't been the
yeah.
case in the past, but
Yeah.
audits have been a case in the past. So just wanted to, you know, find out if there was a new process and what that process would be and when you guys are going to come knocking on the door.
I'll update that information and connect with leadership about that. But right now we're asking schools just to keep inventory of the items you've
Okay.
received.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Deborah, do you have your hand? Oh, go ahead, Casey or Deborah.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
I thought I heard, so I printed my list of vendors, but I thought I heard somebody say something about you could search a list. So is there somewhere else that I'm not seeing other than the one I can just print?
Can one of the schools unmute since you're the user? You have the experience.
So if you go on that ordering site at the top, it tells you a vendor list, and it actually has point of contacts and their email addresses as well. I have found that is very useful, and you can do a search in the upper right-hand corner of that drop-down box.
One more time, where would I
Okay.
find that?
So if you go to the website where you're ordering from,
Yes.
yep, so at the top it says vendor list. Very top.
Perfect. I got it. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Yeah, I find it's very useful, and some of the point of contacts have changed. Like I know school specialty point of contact from Maryland has changed, but they're really good about directing you in the right direction as to who your next point of contact is. They change territories quite often.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. So how far are we supposed to keep our records for how many years? And like iPads that crack, I know to, state that on our records, but how far back do you want us to go?
Yeah, that's information that I'll add on the frequently asked questions page about record keeping, how long to keep records for, and how that should be done. I'll add information about that. Right now, I don't want to misspeak or give you the wrong information, so I'll add that to the frequently asked questions page. Sharon and Jacqueline, you can decide who. Sharon, I guess. You're muted, Sharon.
Sorry. If we were to try to budget for years in advance, so like this year's allocation for each school was based on what year's farms data? Was it 2021?
It was, yes, 2020 to 2021 school year.
And when we multiply that by the number of students, do we use all the students, or is it just like K through 8 or K, whatever the school is? Is pre-K counted in that number?
Pre-K is counted through 12th grade, although if there are any special education students
Okay.
that are placed at your school, let's say if you're a special ed school, if they're placed at your school because their needs can't be met in the public school setting or in a regular ed setting, and your school receives state or local funding for that student, you should remove those students from the equation.
Got it. And it would obviously be full-time pre-K students, correct? No?
I have to get back to you on firm guidance on that.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Nicole. So your PowerPoint kind of said like what was not examples of things that weren't allowed to be used fund-wise. But if I'm looking at the grant information guide and it says use of funds, it does not specifically label those items as not being used. Where do I find what you had shared?
The PowerPoint that I shared today will be posted on the website.
Okay, but like the information guide like doesn't have where it says like specifically whiteboards.
Yeah, you're right. It was printed 5 or 6 months ago, and we have clarified guidance. So this information will be posted on the website.
Okay, so just refer to the recording then afterwards for specifics.
Yeah, and I'll probably add frequently asked question information. And since it seems to be something new this year, I'll also put it right smack dab on the webpage so it can't be missed.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Nicole, I have one more question. In the past, when we've done the ordering, when we get down to the last, I don't know, $5 or $10, the system would go berserk and tell us that our order couldn't go in because we had like $5.93 left, and we'd freak out because we didn't know if the order went through or not. And I'll admit I was one of those last minute people that did it at the last minute. So I was frantically calling Jamie, being like, what's going on with my order? I don't have $1.93 to spend anywhere. So what are you seeing from the orders that you've gotten already? Are people like to the penny, or, is there flexibility there? Am I going to be calling you at the last minute going, Nicole, what's going on?
I urge you not to wait until the last minute. Pretty
Right.
please.
I won't this time.
I know, but I'm going to repeat it again because we had issues with the application, people waiting to the last minute, and then there was a glitch or their computer internet went out, and there's no more allowances. The deadline is the deadline. So please don't wait until the last day. We will be inundated and flooded with phone calls and emails. We probably won't be able to get to you.
Right.
So in saying that, come as close to your funding allocation without going over. So I would commend you if you were able to spend down to the cent of your allocation. But you may have $1 or $2 left over at the end, then you just can't spend down, and that's okay.
Okay. And you haven't seen any problems yet with the people that have submitted their orders?
We have 415 schools that are approved. Each school will probably submit 5, 6, 7 orders, and we've received 10.
Okay.
So we're expecting like 3,000 to 4,000, and we've only received 10. So it's a small sample size. I can't really speak on it right now, but
when's the last day for ordering?
March 31st.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jacqueline.
Sorry again. So I guess manipulatives is new for us this year. We've never ordered anything with that. We usually do the whiteboards, which is why I'm asking. So you said you could do like science-based and like musical instruments and stuff. Can you do anything like social emotional?
Yeah, that would accompany a curriculum.
Okay. And what like documentation do I need to provide in order to like prove that's part of our curriculum?
Nothing. You just submit the quote, and you don't have to justify it or provide an explanation. If it makes you more comfortable, there is a space, there's a box at the bottom where you create your orders. There's a space for comments where you can type a message to us. So if you want to be proactive, just let us know, hey, heads up, this is what it's for. It would eliminate the back and forth, but we just look at the individual items and make a judgment call based on what was submitted.
Okay. And then just to clarify, it can't be used for like any dramatic play items, right?
If it accompanies a curriculum, if that's part of your social and emotional curriculum, where there are some high schools that have a theatrics or drama program, then again, this would be something that I would take to the review committee, but there are theater curricula.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anita. Anita, you have your hand raised. Okay. Are there any other questions? If so, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Okay, well, thank you, Sharon. Have a good weekend too. Looks like some people are starting to exit, so I think I'll wrap it up here. Excellent. Thank you so much for all the great questions. We'll add them. We'll take the feedback and add all the information to our website. Call me or Sandra if you have any questions. Send us an email, and we look forward to starting this process with you all. If you want to hear this information again, you can join us again on February 16th, and we'll be repeating the same information as we've presented today. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.